Hello and welcome to Kurious City. With a difference, we're on lockdown. This is all about helping creative freelancers, indie businesses, arts companies raise awareness about their current plight and tell you how you can help them. So if you're keen to get in touch or you know someone that needs some help, please email me, letty@kurious.art. And just to say, we are recording this online, so the audio isn't usual industry studio spec. So forgive us for that and enjoy. Hello and welcome to Kurious City on Lockdown. Today I'm talking to Paul Ridgway, who is one of the co-founders of the technology consultancy company, The Curve. Paul, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for talking to me today.
No problem.
We're using some technology, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah. So could you just tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what The Curve does normally, i.e. when we're not in the middle of an unprecedented pandemic?
I'm technically the CEO of The Curve, although I co-founded it with James, and we basically both share the same role in running the business. It's a small company, so we do a lot of the hands-on as well as the kind of management side. And what we do at a general level is just help people with technology problems. Most of that results in making some sort of software or websites or something in between. And what we do normally is actually go outside in the world and meet people, find out what problems they have, and then help them solve them. I guess for now that's not really changed, apart from we're not going out. We're just like everyone else, we're having to adopt the use of technology and things like that to replace the conversations.
And how long have you been going?
It's about 14 months now, I think. We started in February last year.
And what kind of impact would you say C19 has had on The Curve?
So far, I think long term it's going to be hard to say, or longer term. So far, things have slowed down. So a lot of the projects that we do would fall under the category of business improvement. And when people are trying to survive, improvement is not really front of mind.
Sure.
When survival is front of mind. So
is there
a lot
a side to that? Do they try and do kind of emergency tactics?
I guess no one's done anything too dramatic or emergency-like at the moment. What we've seen is some projects that were due to start be delayed, and with good reason. People have got to kind of protect the cash that they've got for their staff and things like that.
Sure.
But what we're also seeing is that things are starting to pick up. So we have started having conversations again. I think a lot of the world that isn't used to doing things by Zoom or remotely so much, it's taken some time to get used to. Whereas we're kind of used to doing that. We didn't have an office until recently, so we were effectively a remote team. Yeah. But a lot of our clients, the ones that we often serve best, are those who aren't so technically savvy, which is
like me, for example.
Potentially, yeah. But it's where we can add more value. We can go into tech companies and add value too, but it's smaller gains.
Okay. And I happen to know that you have recently launched an amazing community project. So could you just tell us a little bit about what that is and why you've created it?
Yeah, I'll start with why, because I think it leads into what. I think it was at the end of the first week of the proper lockdown where we were looking at a couple of things really. We were looking at how do we survive the short term. I think everyone kind of went into a bit of a crisis mode at that point. It basically boiled down to a couple of things. We massively reduced our overhead so we could reduce our operating costs, and that allowed us to potentially go for longer if there's a lesser amount of work, but it also allowed us to offer our services to people who needed them for less. So the areas we're targeting for that primarily are people who have been impacted directly, so shops that can only serve people through deliveries or online, or companies kind of adjacent who service the hospitality industry, whereby their workers reduced as well as an indirect result. So for those sorts of people, we've got ourselves into a position where we could do work either for free or at cost, depending on the sort of deal. But along with that, we're thinking, what else can we do? Cutting our costs is one thing, and it's partly about survival. It's partly about helping people. We can't go out and, or at least we're not qualified to go out and do shifts at the hospital and things like that. So the skills that we've got, we looked to apply them to companies that we could help, but also we looked at trying to connect people together. So the project that we did, which we called In It Together, allows people to list help that they're prepared to provide online, and for others to find it. And the reason I got us thinking about that in part is that we started getting these leaflets and flyers and bits of printed paper through the door with people offering help, which is fine if you can go out and you can post those things and you're in an area where someone's doing that.
But we're not allowed to anymore, are we?
Well, not really, unless you combine it with a run. Or something that we consider exercise. But we were thinking that there's plenty of people who can offer services that aren't necessarily local or not locally constrained, or they're in a position where they can offer them wider than just a street. So the idea behind In It Together is if you're prepared to help people, you put up a page, you provide a service kind of radius, basically, of where you can provide physical services. And then
so
people who...
like, picking up medication or going shopping or just sort of ringing someone, maybe an elderly person who wants to have a chat, is it that kind of thing in the local area?
Exactly. And each page gets a listing that can be found through a very basic search mechanism. So it's just trying to lift all that support out of so social media is great for people staying in touch. The use of it's increased. There's a load of stats around that show that, but when it comes to help and certain other things, there's an awful lot of noise there. So whether it's Google or more actual social media like Facebook and Twitter, we were just trying to lift the offers of support out at a kind of a higher level so that people could very easily find stuff they needed, especially when you consider that some of the more vulnerable people may not be active on social media. I mean, equally, they may not be active on a computer, but that's another problem to solve.
More likely to be active on a computer, but I think social media might be another step in the wrong direction for them, possibly. Yeah. So if people have got, am I right in thinking that you can create a page as an individual offering kind of basic local services, but equally you could be an organisation like the Curve or like Kurious, and if there are online services or support services you can offer as a business, you can have a business kind of page as well?
Yeah, there's a couple of different page types that we've got. We've got kind of an individual or family, so it's kind of household really, I guess. Right. We've got company ones, and then we've got a community one as well. And at the moment, they don't really do much on the site. There's not much differentiation. It just lets you see what type of entity you're dealing with. Over time, if people use it, we're looking to just add features that make it helpful or make it useful. So quick ways to search by some of the predefined services you mentioned, so a phone call or picking stuff up, and I guess little bits of personalization too, just so that people can make it a little bit more personal and not just the same template every time.
Yeah. And how's it going since it sort of launched? It's very, very new, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very new, and we haven't made a big song and dance about it either, really. I mean, I think before the weekend we put up a page on Facebook and started sharing that around. But we didn't. One of the reasons we've not made a big fuss about it so far is that we don't really. Most of our reach is through the company in reality, and we don't want it to look like the Curve is doing this sort of thing. James and I put it together initially over one weekend, and we didn't put our name on it anywhere. I don't think it's on there still, because the idea, we didn't want it to look like a company is trying to get their name out there by doing something good. We wanted it just to be, here's something useful that's out there, and it just so happens that we made it.
Okay.
So we're kind of, I guess we're exploring ways to get it out there without making it seem like a corporate thing. So we've teamed up with a local PR company, and they're going to do a little bit of free work to share it with some of their contacts in their network. But because it is free, obviously it's got to be balanced around their paid work, just like it is for us. Obviously we've been sharing it with you guys, and we've been telling other people who we think can offer help or can benefit. But yes, it's very new. Yeah.
So if people want to go and have a look at it, how do they find it?
So it's just a website at the moment. So you just go into any modern browser, and it's inittogether.app.
Amazing. I just want to ask a little bit about whether or not you have got any top tips for getting through the quarantine.
Remove all sharp objects from. I think everyone's in different situations. I mean, ours is one. I've got a 2.5-year-old son who would usually be at nursery a couple of days a week. My wife works for herself making cakes, which is nice and flexible. But when Lewis is at home every day and she can't do some of her own stuff and I'm trying to work and there's all sorts of distractions, having some space to yourself is very helpful.
Yeah.
On the flip side, taking more breaks I found quite helpful too. It kind of helps with the distractibility, I think. When I'm in an office, I don't take a lunch break or anything like that really. And I've often said before, I don't really know what people do with them. But now that I'm at home, and there's a reason to have lunch together, it's been quite nice to break up the day. I've always worked quite flexibly, but I've stretched out my day a little bit. So I start a bit earlier because there's no travel time to the office. Take a lunch break. I kind of stop earlier to spend some time usually in the garden when the weather's good, because obviously we can't go anywhere else. And then do a bit more in the evening, and that's again helps break up some of the boredom, because while I do spend most of my day at a desk in an office, it's just very different when you know that you have no other choice.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Psychologically.
Yeah. And could you give us 3 recommendations for useful pieces of lockdown technology?
Well, I guess that the first 1 or 2 is kind of obvious. Decent microphone, decent webcam if you haven't got a laptop.
Yeah.
Because obviously people are used to doing phone calls and stuff, but I think the use of video has probably gone through the roof at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually quite helpful to people to be able to see each other. I hate video calls, but I have the camera on every time now.
You're doing very well on this one.
Well, thank you. It doesn't take too much effort, apart from not clicking the button to turn it off.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing. To be honest, it depends on the type of job. If it's a desk job, then a proper desk and a chair is really important. We've recently invested in the office in standing desks, which has been really nice when you spend the whole day sitting down. Unfortunately, I can't get them home.
No, bad luck.
But some of my colleagues were
a bench. I'm on a hard wooden bench in my mum's kitchen. That's not doing me any favours.
No, one of our colleagues was using, I think, just like a little kitchen stool or something, or a beanbag, which didn't sound great. So, fortunately, before we went into like proper lockdown, I was able to go to the office and take a couple of the chairs and distribute them amongst people. So we had we could at least deal with that. And then the other thing is, again, it's very relevant to my job, spending a lot of time in front of the computer, but also not working on a laptop screen and being hunched over a laptop keyboard. So either get a monitor, get a keyboard and a mouse if you can justify it and afford it. If you need something cheaper, just get a laptop stand and a cheap keyboard, so that you're not, your monitors for ergonomics is supposed to be kind of around eye level, or the top of it is supposed to be. And I think, if you're not used to having to sit at a desk all day and do all your meetings by Zoom or Hangouts or whatever, then if I had to pick a couple of things, that's probably what I'd start with.
Thank you, Paul. And finally, what is the first thing you're going to do when lockdown is declared over and it's safe to go outside?
That's a tough one, I think. Being from a technology background, I'm generally more indoors than outdoors.
So you just stay inside?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, because we've got the dogs, we can take them out for a walk. It's considered exercise. We're not really breaking any of the rules as far as I'm aware. And we're near a public space, so it's quite easy to stay away from people. So it's not been too bad, and we don't, we've got a garden, we don't live in a flat. So again, it's like, I think we're better off with the setup that we happen to have than some people probably are. So I'm quite pleased for that. Probably I might just go for a long drive. I know it's not very environmentally friendly, but having only seen Walkley for the last couple of weeks, it'd be nice to just go somewhere else.
Weeks or something like that.
Yeah, probably something like that. Nowhere specific, just somewhere that's. Yeah. Yes. In fact, that's probably what I would do. Go to the pub.
Yeah, I think a lot of people listening can fully identify with that. Paul, thank you so much for talking to me today. And we will be doing some promoting of you, The Curve, who are excellent. So we work with you lots. and also the In It Together app. So stay safe, stay strong.
A Kurious Arts production.